So there are two types of power tool mistakes. The first are the type that you might call the faux pas. These are the little things that you see people do all the time and typically get away with it. But the second type are what I call the big no-nos. These are the sort of mistakes that if I see someone even about to make one, I will literally grab them and say, don't do that. In this quick guide, I'm talking about the second type of mistake, the big no-nos. These are the types of power tool mistakes that I think everybody should try to avoid permanently. To demonstrate these, I had to do things to my tools that I would normally never do. It was stressful and dangerous, but I did them so you would have a very clear image of what can go wrong in these cases. So I have to say right now, please don't even attempt any of these things yourself, not even as an experiment. Avoid these power tool mistakes at all costs and keep yourself safe. Also, be sure to check out our free interactive ebook, The Ultimate Carpentry Checklist. This 150-item glossary represents everything you truly need to know about carpentry, from power tools and hand tools to lumber and joinery, and even crucial concepts. It's all here. The checklist is broken up into basic topics, advanced topics, and also general topics that everybody should know. You can tick off the tools that you have, the concepts you understand, and if something is unfamiliar to you, just click that item in the checklist, and the guide will take you straight to an explanation in the glossary. Whether you're new to carpentry or already an experienced tradesperson, this guide will have tons to offer you, and it's completely free. So just click the link down in the description or comments below and get your copy today. All right, with that said, let's get into it. So the first major power tool mistake, and easily one of the worst, applies to the circular saw. It's what I call blade guard sticking. The circular saw blade guard is this retractable hub that encases the blade. The top of the guard is stationary, but the bottom is mounted internally to a spring. This spring keeps the lower half of the guard pulled forward, thus preventing the saw blade from touching anything before and after you make cuts. The blade guard is the most important safety feature on the circular saw because without it, we would constantly be exposed to the blade. But the problem is, damage to the saw can interfere with this process. For instance, I knocked my old Makita off a table by accident. The metal frame got bent, and now the guard won't swing down anymore. I immediately retired that saw. Why? Because without a functioning guard, the saw can't be trusted. Watch what happens when I drop the saw very lightly, similar to how I might set it down after a cut. It's horrifying. The saw is at the mercy of the back-spinning blade. It leaps backwards and sideways as it skews towards the motor weight. I stood on a ladder to do this, and it was still scary. And just look at the gouges I left in the sacrificial top I made. Those are full-depth scars. If your feet are on the floor when this happens, or you're standing beside a table when it falls off, it'll do even worse to you. I did this multiple times, and each test was just as terrifying. Always make sure that your guard is in place and functional. And check that it actually snaps back into place before you set it down every single time. And never ever pin it out of the way. You see framers do this, but it's the worst idea possible. Just look at how fast accidents can happen. Power tool mistake number 2 is just as bad. Freehand table saw cutting. Table saws have an adjustable rip fence. It just looks like a little wall beside the blade. And the fence gives us a stable guide as we push our piece through the blade. But every now and then, people will get tempted to try to use the tool without the rip fence. In other words, they'll try to just guide the board through the blade by hand to make a cut. This is a very serious mistake. Without the fence as a guide, our hands really can't produce enough stability to make the cut safely. And the big risk here is twisting and kickback. See, the table saw blade is rigid. It doesn't want to bend or deviate. It just wants to cut in a perfectly straight line. But as you guide the board through freehand, you may subtly twist it with pressure. This can cause the blade to twist as well, and pressure can build up on the sides of the blade. If this pressure becomes too great, the saw can bind up and kick, like this. Obviously, I triggered this bind up from the back by causing a lot of leverage. But you can see how destructive the force is. The blade grabs the material of the piece and launches it towards the operator. If this happens while you're just pushing a piece through by hand, multiple things can go wrong. One, you'll most likely get hit with the piece as it flies back, which can cause serious torso injuries. But depending on how deep you are in the cut, your hands may get yanked over the blade. And just look at what the blade did to the underside of the board. Yikes. You have to use the rip fence and keep your hands away from the blade at all times. Use a push stick to drive your piece all the way through the blade and stand to the side while you do it. Keep in mind, I also took off the riving knife for this one, which you should never do, but we'll talk about that feature in a moment. Power tool mistake number 3, resting a tool on your body. This is one of those absent-minded, fairly innocent mistakes, but it's still one that you have to avoid. When people aren't using a tool, they'll often rest it on their body, usually against their leg or their lap. You see people do this a lot when they're sitting down to work or just standing there in between tasks. I get it, tools are heavy and you want to keep it close by so you can do more work, but you should never let any power tool rest anywhere against your body, not even for a moment. If you accidentally pull the trigger, you can get an instantaneous gouge wound, or you might eject a nail into your body if your nail gun safety gets depressed. These things happen fast, and people usually aren't even aware that they've occurred until it's too late. So be safe. Set the tool somewhere nearby, on a table or the floor, or simply hold it out away from yourself. But never let it rest anywhere in physical contact with your body. This is a very easy accident to avoid. Power tool mistake number 4, drill binding. People tend to see their drill as their safest tool. After all, it doesn't really spin a blade, and it's fairly easy to use and control. But the problem is, it's just way stronger than most people realize. 18 to 20 volt cordless drills, and nearly all corded models, have more than enough turning power to hurt you. And this almost always happens in a bind-up situation. A bind-up is when the drill bit gets stuck and stops turning, but the drill keeps spinning. So the drill itself becomes the turning object with your hand attached to it. This usually doesn't occur for very long, but even a quarter rotation is enough to sprain or break your wrist. If you're not braced for this sudden, unexpected twisting, it can just happen in the blink of an eye. Be sure to brace your drill firmly whenever you're using it, especially if you're using large bits. Keep both hands on the tool, and for corded models, consider using a side handle attachment. This can help give you a wider point of control and counteract binding. Power tool mistake number 5, grinder wheel breakage. Angle grinders are another tool that a lot of people tend to see as just being safe, probably because they're fairly small. But 4.5-inch angle grinders are one of the leading causes of power tool injuries. And the most common accident with grinders has to do with wheel breakage. Grinders use all sorts of discs and wheels to cut, shape, and clean surfaces. Some are rigid metal wheels that are quite strong, but others are what we call grit discs, composites of fiberglass, abrasive materials, and resins. As you use these discs, they'll slowly break down over time and release small pieces of shrapnel. Most come off as little sparks and are fairly harmless if you're well covered up. But some grinder discs can actually shatter and throw fairly large pieces. Cut-off wheels are very thin grit discs that can be used to cut metal or masonry, and these are the most prone to breakage. Their thin profiles let them cut clean lines, but they absolutely have to be used at 90 degrees to the surface. This is their only strong dimension, spinning vertically. They're not meant for surface grinding. If you press them against the surface at an angle, they can instantly shatter and fling sharp material everywhere. I've seen video of these chunks stuck in people's face masks. Never use a disc in a way that it's not intended. Keep thin discs at 90 degrees and don't stress other types of discs or flap wheels with too much pressure. They're all capable of breaking down and shattering. And of course, wear eye protection, long sleeves, and even consider using a full face shield. It's the only way to be really safe. Power tool mistake number 6, reaching over the table saw. I said before that you should push pieces all the way through the table saw blade from the front, preferably finishing with a push stick, and that you should always use the fence for ripping. But the biggest mistake that people make after the cutting process is reaching over the saw. There's a strong temptation to just reach across the saw to grab pieces rather than letting them fall off the back. But you should never do this. Aside from the obvious risk that it puts your body over the blade, and one slip can bring you down onto the blade, it also creates the risk that your fingers can get sucked into the blade from the back. Remember, the saw blade is spinning towards the operator and it's trying to throw things in that direction. If you're holding onto a small piece from the back, you might get yanked into the blade. Don't reach over the saw and don't stand behind it and pull things out as they pass through. The chance of a kickback is too high. Just push them all the way through from the front, standing slightly to the side, and let pieces either fall off the back or land on a lower surface. Nearly all table saws these days have multiple safety mechanisms that are there to prevent these injuries. Riving knives prevent material from binding on the blade, which seriously reduces kickback. And of course, blade guards keep you from dropping things onto the blade from the top, which would otherwise turn them into projectiles. It's highly recommended that you use both riving knives and the blade guard at all times. It's just the safest way to operate the saw and avoid accidents. And please, don't reach over the saw. Power tool mistake number 7, putting your hands in the nailing path. Nail guns speed up everything, and I love using them. But the main thing you have to avoid is putting your hands or any other body part directly in the nailing path. When you're bringing two pieces together for a shot, the temptation is to really cradle them tightly with your free hand. This makes the seam feel more secure and better for an accurate shot. But this is bringing your offhand way too close to the nailing path. Even if you feel confident with your aim, there's a chance that your shot may go astray, and a skewed nail can punch right through your hand. I had an old coworker who literally nailed 2 fingers together this way. You have to move your free hand farther back, away from the nailing path, and ideally, nail at a very slight angle, so if you do get a skip out, it's less likely to hit your body. And this applies to brads and trim nails too. They have a tendency to punch out through sidewalls as they bend inside the material. Or you may have the wrong length installed, and they can punch clear through 2 pieces you're pinning together. Once again, get your hand away from the nailing path. If something's going to go wrong, you don't want to add a puncture wound to the problem. Power tool mistake number 8, cutting short pieces on the miter saw. This one truly terrifies me. If you're using a miter saw to cut components for a project, don't try to cut any piece that is under 10 inches. Really, I don't think you should cut anything under 12 inches. This length just brings your hand way too close to the spinning blade. And furthermore, it creates a risk of cut collapse. Miter saws have this wide clearing at the back. It's usually 2 to 3 inches, and it allows the curvature of the blade to pass all the way through a piece, even at multiple angles. But the problem is the gap creates a support issue for your board. Your piece has to project an inch or more past the fence in order for you to cut it. But short pieces can actually get twisted by blade contact and pushed back into the gap. This causes the blade to bind, and here's what happens. Once again, the saw blade really doesn't want to twist, bend, or stop. But as the piece moves, it sort of squeezes the blade from the side, triggering this pressure explosion. The blade jumps up, and the piece just gets ripped apart. If your hand is too close while this is happening, it can very easily get yanked towards the blade on accident, or it'll just get blasted with shrapnel. Cutting short pieces just creates support issues and tension. You're trying to both hold the piece down and prevent it from twisting. But that's just too much to control this close to the blade. If a strong kickback happens, there's no telling where your hand might wind up. To be safe, don't cut anything under 10 inches, unless you're using your saw's hold down clamp. And if you don't have something like that, then cut your piece out of a longer board. But don't do anything that brings your hand this close to the blade. And power tool mistake number 9, changing blades while plugged in. This is the easiest one to avoid and the easiest one to overlook. If you're going to change a blade or disc on any tool, please be sure to unplug it first. Changing out blades on a lot of tools requires that we actually grab the blade at some point, and you do not want any possibility that the tool becomes active while that's happening. It's bad enough for hand tools, but it just becomes worse on our large blade spinning tools. To change a table saw blade, look how far you have to put your hands down into the arbor well. So much of your arms are exposed to the teeth. Just imagine what's going to happen to them if that saw fires up unexpectedly. That is a life-changing accident, possibly a life-ending accident if you can't get the bleeding to stop quickly enough. Before you change or even touch any blade, unplug the tool or pull the battery and set it right there in front of you. Make sure you can see it while you're performing the operation. Check twice, 3 times. You can never be too cautious here. And if anyone else is around, don't let them touch the cord or even come near it. Tell them to stand back until the operation is done. This is a really serious one, and you have to protect yourself by staying vigilant. No one else can do it for you. And speaking of which, our final power tool mistake, number 10, is a very basic one. Failure to wear PPE. This may seem like a cop-out after all those other scary examples, but nothing is going to keep you safer than your basic safety equipment. A dust mask for lung protection, earmuffs or plugs for hearing protection, and most important, goggles for eye protection. Obviously, eye damage can happen at any time using virtually any power tool. One tiny little piece of material could partially blind you. So you just have to protect your eyes at all costs. But other types of major accidents occur slowly over time, like getting hearing damage that you don't notice until you're 50, and then you suddenly can't get that ringing out of your ears. Or the COPD that occurs when you inhale too much dust over time, and you can never take an easy breath again. Before you start building anything or making any cuts, just put this stuff on. An ounce of prevention is worth years of heartache, and that's no joke. But that's my scary list of the 10 worst power tool mistakes. I hope that all that was helpful and that it doesn't deter you from tackling projects. After all, we need power tools to work effectively. You just have to be sure that you use them cautiously and safely every single time. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Ethan James with thehonestcarpenter.com. I'll see you next time.